Welcome back to Twist of Fate, a small business podcast where you can find your inspiration to start your entrepreneurial journey in the pursuit of your dreams. Today's episode is dedicated to our college dreamers that are out there. This is a very interesting time where there's climate change, there's inflation, interest rates, and there's a lot of uncertainty. But never forget that our youth is the future, and they are dreaming and doing amazing things that maybe you weren't aware of. Today, I brought forward a dreamer that has made a dream reality. Srinjay, my friend, as part of Team Buzly, welcome to Twist of Fate.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
You are a co-founder and CEO of a new social media platform called Buzly. Why don't you tell my listeners a little bit about your role and a little bit about Buzly?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. So basically what Buzly is a private social network application, student communication tool that connects students and universities together in a new way. You know, what my role is, my co-founder and I found a big problem when we came to Sac State, which was that a lot of times students have a hard time connecting with campus, finding other people in the same major, maybe with similar interests. And so a lot of times if people don't find their people in college, you know, a lot of times people drop out, there's lower graduation rates. And at the end of the day, there's not a community. So
I think your comments even exacerbated worse in COVID.
Yes, definitely.
Because everybody went home, right?
Right.
Everybody went home, and then it's like they're not answering their emails.
Right.
And you know what? I can tell you what you're saying matters to me because I taught a class at Cal State. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
Are they responding to this email? Did they see it? I don't know. You know?
Right. No, exactly. And when you look at it, it's really tough because this timing, right, coming right out of COVID, a lot of times students just aren't consuming the type of information the way that universities are portraying it, right? Like you just mentioned with emails, you know, students are getting tons and tons of irrelevant emails and they're not being able to filter through that to give them what they need on a daily basis. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to provide that sense of community and sense of belonging and build that within the college itself, but then also give them that information that they need.
Now let me clarify. This was your college,
right,
that you're doing this at, right? So could you explain?
Yeah.
You're a student at, is it Sacramento State?
Yeah, so I'm a third-year computer engineering student at Sacramento State University.
Incredible.
And we created the platform back in November and December of last year, and then we launched in February and March of this year. And we just said, like, you know, let's create something that we think will help people and make impact. And then we launched it, and we got a whole bunch of our friends to start using it. And then after a bunch of our friends started using it, just started taking off from there. And we realized, oh, there's a real problem here. Let's try to put some time and effort into, you know, really solving this.
I mean, student, entrepreneur, founder, social network. Haven't I seen this story before? Very interesting. So you are part of the co-founding team,
right?
And there's two other.
Yeah. So our co-founders is myself and Abu Bakr Hussein. We also have Jackie Diaz and Manuel Diaz, who are also part of the Buzly team as well as one of our first members of our team. And the four of us have been able to really build out this community. We come from a very diverse group of experiences. Actually, my co-founder is a mechanical engineer, so he's not really in the tech space at all. Manuel Diaz is my CTO.
But he's a student.
Right.
I mean, he has student experience.
Right.
He knows a lot about
Exactly. But he's done a really amazing job. Abu Bakr Hussein has done an amazing job of like kind of talking to users and building out, talking to students, finding out what they need. He's done hundreds and thousands of thousands of interviews with students to find out exactly what they're looking for. So he's been a huge and valuable member of the team that's provided us with the necessary iteration to kind of build our product and solve this problem. And then Jackie has also provided, she has a child development background, which also kind of brings in this piece of psychology of what kind of how students react to certain types of information, which is very diverse when you look at it from like, you know, most startups are started by like maybe a business major and a computer engineering or computer science major, right? We're a very kind of diverse team that kind of gives us a lot of strength.
All student team.
All student team, yes, all student team.
See, this is unique, right? Like,
right.
So let me ask you. So for my listeners,
right.
This is a new social network. Your goal is to create better engagement between the university, faculty, and students. So it allows what type of interactions that is unique? Because like I brought up email, there's current social networks, but you guys are doing something that is a little bit different. So why don't you talk about that?
Right. So basically what we're doing is we're fostering these genuine one-to-one connections between students, right? A lot of times you go to Snapchat and Instagram, it's a world wide web, right? You're getting tons and tons of, different types of diverse students, people coming together. We're prioritizing that. So like very similar to how Facebook started, right? That's the story, right? We privatize it to
Did
just...
you know my wife is the one that introduced me to Facebook? So because she was at college, so she invited me
onto the platform?
Onto the platform. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So she was must have been one of the first couple of users.
Yeah, Case Western Reserve. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I understand what you mean, that platform started in the only way you could be a part of it. It wasn't like you just go online. It's like, no, you had to have a college like email address, and
exactly,
you could have more peer-to-peer discussion.
And kind of what happened is when that started back in when Facebook started, is it worked back then, but nowadays students aren't using Facebook anymore, and so there's a big gap of like, where do students go to have that privatized community? So that's where Buzly shines, and so we build those genuine connections between students.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you feel that students aren't using, it's not just Facebook, it's like certain major social platforms? Is it because it's like there's toxicity, there's bullying, or even just you don't want your college life all on Front Street like that, right? It can be used against you later on.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think there's a little bit of fatigue, right, that you get with Instagram and Snapchat of just seeing consistently like a highlight reel, right? A lot of it is fake. And so what we've done is like, it's very much of a genuine community, and it's less of a social media and more of a community. And that's the key that like I like the big difference is because when we see students posting on Buzly, they're posting about things that are relatable to other students. Like, oh, I need financial aid, or I just finished this exam and I finished this test. Does anyone know if there's a parking permit? I want to know about different clubs and organizations. And so these types of interactions just aren't happening on other platforms, right? You can go join a Facebook.
Not at all. I agree with you.
Right. Yeah. And so those types of interactions are the things that are consistently driving students back to it.
They're just not built that way. Like you'd have to set up like a group or like maybe a common chat room or something, and that's not necessarily, I agree, it's not necessarily.
But see, the thing with those different types of things, there's no authentication, right? Like how do you know that this group is like only for my school, right? So we validate that by showing that these are active students at your school right now. But not only do we do that, we actually recommend you connections based off of like when you log in, like, oh, I'm interested in these types of things. I'm a first generation student, so we connect you with other first generation students. We connect you based off your hometown. So now you can meet people who are coming from the same area to college. So we're facilitating this matchmaking of people that are like-minded like you, which allows people to do better in college, right? That's been a proven statistic, is that when people find their people in college, they're more likely to stay in college and continue.
I agree. This is a great point you're raising. So my understanding is, if you can create this better engagement in the student body, you're trying to improve the success of them, first of all, completing college, but maybe they even get more engaged with activities on campus, which leads to happiness, which also is related to preventing dropout, right?
Definitely. Yeah, and even like mental health is a big piece that we've seen on our platform of students supporting one another on the mental health aspect. I think that's a big piece that not only the university is looking for, but students are looking for.
So if I understand correctly, that means a student at Sacramento State can go on Buzly, identify themselves, find an intramural sports group, or they're on the football team, and they can find, your platform will find connections for them. And yeah, that helps their student life, right? Like I would say, if you're a freshman and you're at school for the first time, right? Sure, you could go to that frat party, and binge and do things you maybe shouldn't, or you can use the platform to find your interest or find your niche where you would be.
Right. And the cool thing with Buzly is if you still want to go to that frat party and do all those things, you can find a group on Buzly for that, right? So we have different types of groups. You mentioned, like, for example, you joined the football team. So you're on the football team. Now the football team is communicating to the team through Buzly. So we have different groups and group chats that students can create. And it allows students to find things that they're interested in as well.
We haven't talked about that faculty can interact on Buzly.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So not faculty, administrators. So there's a little bit of a difference between that. So it's not teachers and professors on here. It's more administrators, people from student affairs, people from a dean of a college. That is the dissemination of information is the way that we've done it. And we keep it very separated, right? So we say we have a home feed, which our professors and administrators are not allowed on. So it protects the sense of like safety and community within students. And then we have
that could be conflict of interest, right? Like if you're, I mean, I told you I taught a class. It's like, are they really studying right now? Let me go on Buzly and check it out. Right?
Exactly. And, students also want to share their struggles, right? So they're saying like, okay, maybe I'm struggling with this professor. Does anyone have any other professors that I would want to see? And so that's why we kind of protect that student community, and that's what keeps students coming back to the application. And then on the administrative side, students can actually view information, like and share that information, but can't comment on the information. So it's a one-way communication channel that protects the university as well.
I'm loving and eating all of it up. Now, my understanding is this is not minimum viable product. Like Buzly, you already have it up and running at Sacramento State.
Right. Yeah, so right now we're actually going to be launching this fall with a couple of the colleges at Sac State as well as student affairs. And we're going to be rolling this out to, right now at our current growth rate, we're going to be having 25,000 students on the platform by the middle of the semester.
I mean, that's a Division I school. Like that's that's big volume.
We're really excited. And I think the other key piece that's been attributing to like this consistent thing is actually the users themselves. We keep saying, superpowers are users, and it really is that because we see the users themselves sharing the feedback. Like they're posting like, I want to see this and Buzly next. When can I see Buzly 2.0? All these different types of comments. And so that is really what's driving the team forward. And right now we're at Sacramento State University, but by Q4 of this year, we're going to be at 8 different schools.
Oh, wow.
So
look at you.
Yeah, so we're launching, our platform is Buzly, so you can actually go on to there and click on, for example, UCLA, and now you have a community for a Buzly for UCLA. Another one that we're launching in is CSU Stanislaus, Chico State University.
That would be Buzly Chico or Buzly UCLA. Like
exactly.
That's you're creating a business model of you go to these different universities and create these student engagement social networks.
Right, exactly. And at the end of the day, it's still Buzly, right? It's still like this platform that gives you all these opportunities. But what we want to do is you want to kind of curate that content for that campus, right? UCLA culture is totally different than Sac State culture. Chico culture is totally different than Stanislaus culture, Davis and Berkeley. So like what we've done is we've tried to be reflective of the culture and the values of each school and bringing that to Buzly. Because I think at the end of the day, like it's not an app, it's a community. And so that's like our key piece that we are, it's really giving us our competitive advantage over other companies.
Is it free to use for students?
Yes, so it's 100% free to use for students. The students can just download it off the App Store and then they can log in. They verify their email address, showcasing that they're an active student, and they can gain all the resources and start connecting with people right away. We do unlock schools based off of a certain time period, so we'll, depending on like if there's enough students at that school, we unlock the school. So we kind of build up that initial traction first.
Is your goal to go to more Division I bigger volume schools, or do you prefer to?
Right, that's a great question. So what we've done currently is for these 8 schools that we're launching at in Q4 is these are schools that are reflective of like the current user base. So people from commuter schools, a diverse background schools, and so that's allowed us to kind of, and also the CSU system, right? So that these have been a way for us to grow, but also keep that sense of community and doing it in a way that allows us to scale with our team and our team capacity.
But long term, you could.
Oh yeah, long term. No, the long term goal is like after next year, we're gonna have Our goal is to have most of the West Coast using Buzly. That's Oregon, Arizona, and all of California. And the way that we see being able to do that is through some of these long-term partnerships with the CSU system, the UC system. We already had some leads reach out to us from these different schools asking us how they can get Buzly on their campus. So now it's just a matter of providing them with that ability to do so.
Congratulations to you. I'm just curious. So you had mentioned West Coast as in the United States.
Right.
But you're a man of the globe, right? Like there's benefits offshore and rest of the world as well, right? There's universities there.
Definitely. Actually, one of our team members went to New Zealand for vacation and was showcasing Buzly to students at a New Zealand school. And they're like, oh my gosh, I love this. We need this at our school. And it just showcases that no matter the type of community, the problem is present, worldwide. And so long term, right, what we want to do is we really want to grow this platform to have, globally. We want to grow the platform globally. But right now we're focused on the next 2 years to really lock down the West Coast and then the US. Because I think that's, for us, we're have a strong disposition to execution of actually getting it done. So we see the opportunity ahead of us and what's provided, but we're really focused on getting to that next milestone for us.
Fantastic, and I really appreciate you sharing. I mean, as you can see, my compliments to Team Buzly. They've really thought through their rollout plan, what their identity is, and where they want to play. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that I'm sure you probably had many of them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, for yourself, like how, I think you hit it on the head about you don't have the faculty on there because from a privacy standpoint, like that, obviously that could lead to a breach of trust and conflict of interest. But my question to you is, have you, a lot of the concerns with the other social platforms, bullying, trolling, even, where, threats of violence, right? Like we have political violence risks in this country now. So have you done some things in Buzly to guard against some of these issues?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's like the first question any university approaches us with, right? Because it's a major problem. And one of the biggest things what we've been able to do is we've actually created a community guidelines that reflects each campus's culture, right? So we actually work with those different centers on each campus. For example, UC Berkeley might have a very different campus culture than Sac State might, right? And so we kind of build out that community guidelines around that. We also are using machine learning algorithms and that Amazon Web Services provided us and other big companies are using. We just kind of implemented that into our platform
to find offenders or to
right. But at the end of the day, the biggest piece here is that what we've done is we said, okay, if you violate our guidelines twice, you get basically banned from the platform in the way that you can't post content, but you can still consume content, get updates from the university, and still receive that. So you're not being completely isolated from the community, but we want to protect it at the same time. So that's kind of how we've handled a lot of those issues.
And then another thought. So you want this to be free and accessible to all the students there, but you still have to pay your bills,
right?
Server costs. So have you thought about monetization? I mean, that's a slippery slope too, because you start putting ads and all that stuff on there, and then you're going down the path that the major networks already did. So.
Right. That's a great question, actually. One thing of what we're doing is it's kind of never been done before in the sense that there's been a lot of social apps out there for college students, but no one's really been able to bridge the gap between the university and the school. And a lot of times for monetization, right, you put in ads and it takes value away from the student, right? Now students hate ads, or now they're getting push notifications that they don't want to hear. So our model is slightly different, and this is kind of what allows us to kind of push forward, is the fact that we're providing value to the student while monetizing, right? So we're telling universities, hey, you have the ability to post on the platform, and in return, users are getting value because they're getting content from the university, and we're charging the university to be able to post on our platform.
I've been on this entrepreneurial journey and working with the entrepreneurial community for the last 3 years, and I've done startups, but I don't always run into a student dreamer that actually goes out in the field and does it immediately. So I want to ask you, like, what inspired you to say, I'm gonna place my bets here. I'm gonna go and do this now. Like, what was the thing that was your, pun intended, twist of fate that made you say, okay, I'm gonna go and do this?
You know, it's an interesting story, actually. So I was kind of contemplating, like, why do I keep pushing and why do I keep doing what I'm doing? And I think it's a plethora of reasons. It's not just one reason. But when I first came to campus, I didn't know this, but subconsciously, I didn't have a whole bunch of friends. And I went to class, like I drove to campus, I went to class, and then I kind of just left.
Were you from Sacramento?
I was from Sacramento, yeah.
Okay,
so I was commuting.
Your backyard.
Right. So I was commuting to Sacramento State University, going to do my classes. You know, I talked to some people here and there, and then I kind of go home. And I realized I didn't really have a sense of friends or community even at my school. Like I didn't go hang out with anyone after class.
You weren't in a frat?
I was not in a frat. And so, I mean, I had a lot of friends who were in frats, and I know that's a great way to meet people, but for me, it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I know I want to make some friends. And then, you know, time kind of went on, and I found people that had interest and things like that. Then later on, I realized, oh, wow, you know, when I was building this platform, subconsciously, I think that had an effect on me as to kind of why I was doing this. And subconsciously, I didn't know that. Another reason why is a friend of mine, I told this idea to him, and I said, hey, like, what do you think about this? Like, what if I created this platform that allowed students to connect with one another and have universities? Mm-hmm. And he started laughing at me. He's like, that will never work. He was a smart guy, too, a very, very smart guy. And he's like, that will never work. I don't know why you're spending any of your time on it. I don't understand any of that. And so kind of within me, I was like, I don't, like...
Was his reaction that there's other social networks, or like, where was he? What was his frame of reference?
His frame of mind was that you need a critical mass of users to make this work, and
there's tons of college students there.
Right, and you also need and there's so many other social network companies that have come out and failed, and so he said, what's going to be different, right? And so those are both valid concerns, but for me, it was kind of like something where like I wanted to be able to showcase to him that, not just to him, but more to myself, that I could do it. And so that really pushed me over the edge of like, okay, you know, there's times when I'm really, really stressed out and I have a lot going on, but that little voice in the back of my head really kind of pushes me the extra mile of like, okay, I want to do this to be able to show to myself that I can do it if I want to do it.
So I'm glad you shared this story. So to my listeners, if you're thinking about entrepreneurism, get ready for the naysayers, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, anytime you're going to go off to make the world a better place or do the impossible, there's going to be the doubters. So I commend you to translate what could be doubt or would make you give up into motivation to do things the right way and to be optimistic and say you can go and do it. And let me ask you, is that naysayer now a user of Buzly?
Yes, they're a user of Buzly, and they also were asking for a job. So that was a very interesting...
That's called the big payback, my friend. So good for you. I'm really, really proud of you for being able to do that. So, because when you make a naysayer a believer, right?
Right.
That's what it's all about, right? That's entrepreneurism at its core.
And I think one thing that my team and I really see, like, it's not just me, it's me and my team, is we see this vision of what a lot of people are missing, right? I think a lot of people are missing this fact that, yeah, there's a lot of social networks out there, but the way that we're doing it with universities being integrated hasn't been done because it's so difficult to do.
Sure.
And so that piece of it gives us a kind of like light at the end of the tunnel, like, okay, there's a lot of other companies trying to do what we're doing, but the piece that's really, you know, allowing us to move forward is the fact that we've kind of cracked how universities are working.
It's also, I mean, I agree with you, but it's also, it's kind of like by the students, for the students, and that gives you some authentic position as well.
Right.
But let me tell you, you're not going to be a student forever.
Exactly.
So have you guys figured that out? What happens when people graduate, right? They say, well, I want to stay on Buzly. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So I have one more year left myself. And so I'm going to be graduating very soon. Actually, this last year when we launched Buzly, we had a whole bunch of students on Buzly start actually walking in graduation, started screaming, "We love Buzly. Buzly is the reason why I graduated. When are we going to get Buzly alumni?" And I would love to.
There it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have like this need to create Buzly alumni. And that's something we're going to work on as the company progresses.
Sure.
But right now we're focusing on like optimizing for that freshman student, right? That freshman and transfer student, because as users get younger and younger and younger, what they're into is consistently changing. And so we've kind of recruited a sense of community within each school to kind of go in and find those new students and let them become basically what Buzly is at each campus. So it's not me anymore. It's not our team. It's those new students.
When did you first think about that you would be CEO?
You know, it's an interesting thing. I never the interesting thing is like in the previous things that I've done, the number one thing I've realized is like I don't want to be the center of it, right? And when you think about it like from that perspective, it's like it's not just me. It's a team. It's a group of people collaborating on something. And so if you remove that aspect of I'm owning, there's a sense of like ownership and it's community ownership. There's a power in that. I think there's a power in giving more control to people around you, while also giving direction and vision.
That's the mark of a great leader. A lot of times is that they don't always want to lead, but they'll do it if they have to.
Right.
But did that intimidate you in any way? Did you kind of say, ooh?
Right. Yeah. So sorry. Go ahead.
On a personal note, when I say that is in my corporate life, I've worked with a lot of CEOs, and one of the things I said to a couple CEOs, I don't want that job, and they kind of looked at me and kind of like, but you have all the skills for it. You would be great at it. I said, I see the weight on your shoulders. I see the weight on your psyche. I'd never want to be a CEO. And then, of course, here I am, I'm a CEO. Right. So I can empathize with that. But I'm just curious, like, how did you struggle with that? Or, or was it like, oh, well, I'm going to do it?
I think it's a continuing process is what it is. Like, even up to this point, like, I think when I took on the role, I didn't fully understand what it totally entailed, right? I was a computer engineer. I've always been a leader, but being a CEO has a different set of, roles and responsibilities. And I've been able to grow into that role through the help of a lot of mentors and advisors.
I mean, that goes beyond being president of like
a club.
Yeah, this is not that. This is like you are now responsible for payroll, taxes, you can get in trouble, you get sued, right? Exactly. Like it's kind of crazy.
One thing I realized is I have to be able to have a high level of tolerance for both risk and pain. And that has provided me with a sense of understanding of what I'm going to have to be doing going forward. And that sense of like tolerance of risk has allowed me to understand what's coming ahead, what's coming in the forefront, and then be prepared for it. And I think that is like the number one thing that I've been doing to kind of provide myself with the right tools and the right people around me to help guide me into that position. Because I don't know everything, and I know that I don't know everything. But what I do know is if I surround myself with the people who can provide me with those tools and resources, it helps me get to that next step.
Team Buzly, I met at the NBA Sacramento Kings Capitalize pitch competition, and I see a young person take the stage, and it was you, and you articulated the need for a better engaged student life that really inspired me. I can tell you, I was impressed, not just because you're a young person, but you really understood what I would call the unmet need. And second thing that impressed me most, which is 100% testament of your efforts here, the culture of your founding team. I saw them all there. They're all good people. And you guys are out to really win here. And good team dynamics like that, you don't always see that between boards, between CEOs that have competing interests, between founders that may have a different opinion of what the venture is. So one, that's my compliment to you. I really respect you, and I respect that Team Buzly. You tell them all that I'm rooting for them because the culture that you guys are creating is great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Doug. I appreciate that. We really appreciate your guidance and mentorship as well when you were up for the pitch competition as well. But I think
what was that like?
That experience with the Kings, it was very cool experience. We had just come, that was like the first time we were pitching for. I mean, I pitched before, but that was like the first time we were pitching at a caliber that we like just a couple months before we launched our product. So it was a totally like a short period of time to get ready and make it happen. And I think that it was a team effort. The whole team put together all these amazing slides, and we really went in and practiced it over and over, tons of times, overnight.
Were you a Highline exit? Like, were you in that program?
We were, myself and Abu Becker, my co-founder, we were part of the HiveMind cohort as well with Cameron Law and Jesse.
Maybe you want to tell them about
HiveMind?
HiveMind?
So the HiveMind cohort is basically for brand new startups coming out of Sacramento State University, and it's basically a really, really great intensive program for startups to get the resources they need. Doing a business model canvas, understanding the needs, providing it. And so Cameron Law of the Carlson Center and Jesse Alexander provided that amazing experience of kind of how to find that need, how to isolate it down, and then how to kind of fit your venture for that, as well as pitching advice as well. How do you pitch? How do you put together a business plan? How do you put together a slide deck? What are the things you need to include in that? So it was a very, very helpful experience for our whole team. So
you went from HiveMind to practice to pitching in an NBA arena in front of the CEO of Dialpad, or myself, or the president of the Kings franchise. Were you nervous? What was that pitch experience like for you personally?
Personally, yeah, no, I was definitely nervous. I mean, I wasn't nervous in the fact that I was not going to do well, or I didn't know what I was talking about. It was more I didn't want to let my team down, and I was okay, I want to do the best I possibly can. And I also wanted to be able to showcase all of the hard work we've been working on, and because it's not just me, like I mentioned, it's a team, and I'm representing the team in that moment, so it's really important for me to be able to provide and showcase that competitive edge that we have, and really showcase that. So that's my personal experience with it. Was I was not super nervous for myself, but more nervous for I want to be able to showcase wealth across for my team for all the hard work that they put in as well.
Yeah, again, signs of a great leader, selflessness. So I commend you on that. So maybe we could talk a little bit further where Buzly's going. So you said this fall you have some big launches.
Right.
We talked about international, but do you anticipate enabling certain technologies into Buzly? How are you investing for growth in the future? I'm just curious as to what your needs are there.
Right, yeah. So actually we're going to be getting ready to open our round here for our pre-seed. And so that's going to allow us to get the right basically that right amount of money to be able to grow the company. And so part of our land, like you mentioned, different technologies, we have a new technology that we're implementing right now, which is basically location-based. So as you're walking around campus, you'll get a little notification hey, you're walking by the library, there's this event going on, things like that. We also have a new feature, it's called Campus Crush, which provides students with the ability to kind of leave different types of anonymous crushes on one another, and then it reveals it. So that's a new feature that we see a lot of students really liking. And then on the university side, we've really built out an amazing dashboard and insights. So now different departments can compare against each other and see, the engineering computer science department is getting this much engagement on this post, and health and human services is getting this much engagement. And so it allows them to kind of build that cross. We also see from a university standpoint, at-risk students who are at risk of not engaging with campus, not getting the right financial information, financial wellness information, mental health. We're actually we have an algorithm that's allowing to kind of aggregate that data and showcase on the university side, here's all the students that are at risk. And that provides a lot of value for the university, because now they can target these students to be able to, re-engage them with campus.
Yeah, I mean, I think that preventing dropout, preventing any miscommunication, preventing student violence, any predictive technologies, clearly you're investing the right way. But on a funner note, no dating app? I don't know, do young people still,
Yes, definitely,
100%.
We have, so that's Campus Crush. So Campus Crush, how Campus Crush works is basically a student can leave a like on someone's profile, and it's semi-anonymous. So unless the other student leaves a like on your profile, it reveals it. But these likes expire in 3 weeks, so you have 3 weeks to find out. And so students will consistently come back to the app and check it to see, okay, has that person, left a like back? And so that kind of provides that sense of urgency to come back to the app. I got to check it every day. Has someone done that? Another piece of it is we have.
So you should know. You should know. I can't. I'm of a generation. There was no dating app when I was in college.
Right.
And I met my wife. I guess you would say. I don't know if that's the old-fashioned way or it's the crude original way, but we met at work.
Right.
So, but I do acknowledge that part of student life and part of the college experience is you might meet the love of your life. It could happen.
We actually, you mentioned that we actually had 2 users find each other on Buzly, and a relationship has sprouted out since that. And so that was really, really cool to see, as well as people telling us, oh, I found my entire friend group on Buzly. I made lifelong friends. But we're seeing relationships come out of Buzly as well. So that's
the killer testimonial.
Right.
That's the big user review.
Yes.
Hopefully you get a marriage out of it.
Right. We'll have to see. If that. Yeah. But
I'm sure at this point you probably feel married to Buzly yourself.
Yeah. I kind of feel like Buzly's like our baby at this point. So it's more just like protecting it and giving it what it needs to grow.
Mm-hmm. As an entrepreneur, I personally have experienced. You go into situations with the best of expectations. You're going to do your best in trying to create change, and you're going to fail a lot. And I'm curious for you, is there a story or a moment that you really put your best foot forward, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out? And how did that make you feel?
Yeah. So one time, actually, when we were first launching the application, I think it was like a weekend, I had spent all this time really coding it, like making it work. Like I spent hours and hours and hours trying to get it to work. And finally it was working, and we saw so many users. We saw like a whole bunch of users joining the application. And what happened was, because there's so many people joining at one time, our entire servers completely crashed. Totally. Up until the point where it was so bad, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why it was happening. I was texting, at this point it was just me and my co-founder, no one else on our team was there, and I was like, my co-founder is non-technical, so he didn't know what was going on, so it was all me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I see all these things going on. On our Instagram page, we had almost like 98 DMs of students saying, I can't get into Buzly, why can't I get into Buzly, what's going on? And at this moment, I was actually I was in the middle of my final when this happened, and so I was trying to determine what the best course of action was in this moment, because I was like, okay, this is my final. I have to, finish my final, and I also have to take care of this. And I realized, like, you just get good at taking gut punches, right? Like, you just get good at it. You get good at, like, knowing that it's going to happen. And then, I think it's almost like a skill. It's like, okay, when you get punched, it's like, okay, great. Now where's the next one coming from, and how can I take it better almost? And so it takes time, but I'm learning it's easy. It's a skill you can build, and you can get better at that. So for me, it's more about, like, I learned early on that that's part of startup life. When you go into entrepreneurship, no one tells you that this is what it's going to be like. And then you get there, and next thing you know, like, all of your users are down, people are screaming at you consistently.
They're saying there's no process.
Right. You're living out of your car, you have $5 in your bank account, and you're like, okay, how am I going to make this work? And so that is when that's where people have to understand that you're choosing this life. You're not being forced into it, but if you're choosing it, you have to understand that it's a roller coaster. There's going to be amazing times, and there's going to be times where it's really bad. So just, getting better at the gut punches is probably the only advice I would be able to give.
So, moving into what this could mean for you and the founding team, with you all being students and your graduation day coming,
right? Have
you guys started talking succession planning? Because, you're going to have a bright future, my friend, period. I'm sure there's some great employers watching. Like, they're going to want to talk to you. So what's the kind of plan on the management team for Buzly? Are you guys doing succession?
No, that's a great question. So after graduation, the whole team will be working on Buzly full time after graduation. Actually, some of our team have already gotten offers from other companies, including myself. But we've said, like, we want to really, we really believe in what we're doing. And I think impact, short term, short-term money is great, but I think we're all working towards impact, and that's really what we're focused on. So all of us are willing and wanting to work on this, even if we have to take a minimum salary for the first 3-4 years, whatever we have to do just to get it to that next level, because we really believe that we're making a real impact.
Sweat equity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if I have listeners that want to get on the Buzly platform, how can they find out if their school is one of the Buzly affiliate schools?
Right. So you can visit our website at buzly.io, buzly.io, and you can check there. We have a list of all the schools that are available as of right now. We are opening up more and more schools every month, and so you should be able to see your school. Even if your school isn't on there, you can click on it and add to the wait list. You can be waitlisted on. So when we do open up your school, you can hop onto that platform.
Is there like a trial or like something like a student could get a demo or
so
experience what it's like?
The way that we have it is it's kind of almost like you have to be on it to kind of know what it is, and that provides students with the sense of curiosity as well. And so we don't really show you exactly what you're going to get, because each school is totally different as well too, right? So like Sac State's culture is different, so Buzly's different. So it really just depends on that school. So once students go onto our website, they can check that. You can also follow us on Instagram at Buzly for students, or just type in Buzly. You'll find a whole bunch of pages. You can actually see which, if your school has Buzly, by just searching it up on Instagram and typing in BUZLY and then the letters of your school, and that will provide you with if we have it available.
What is success like for you, Srinjay? I mean, you've at a young age already started a company, you're already a CEO, you're already have brought a team together. What is a measure of success to you from this? Because I don't take you as a guy that you just want to get rich.
No, yeah. I think for me, it's interesting you say that. I feel like I haven't done anything yet. I really feel like I haven't done anything yet, and I think that, I think there's a lot more I'm wanting to do, and I have aspirations to do, and I just really haven't felt like I fulfilled what I wanted to do even in the beginning. And so there's a certain level of urgency and drive that keeps me pushing forward. Is I have this thing in my mind, I haven't done anything yet. I really haven't done anything yet. What have I really done? And so that provides me with the sense of I got to keep pushing forward to kind of get where I want to go.
So this is a great segue to my final thoughts for my listeners out there. Srinjay, his desire to not be satisfied, to push himself, to even say, I'm not even sure what success looks like, but I'm going to push forward, is where you all need to go. My comment is, don't go out into being an entrepreneur or into business or into making the world a better place for financial reasons. We're doing this because in some way we can make the world a better place, and that makes us better as people. And that's what I see from you today. That's what I'm learning from you. I think what you're doing to improve student life is a real necessary need at a time now that COVID has divided us. I think that the political landscape has divided us. And for us to heal, you've created a tool to bring us back together. And for any of my students out there, I one more time, if they want to find out more about Buzly, they can either go to your website or they can contact you, right?
Yeah, you can contact me. You can. I have a Twitter. It's just my name at Srinjay Verma. Or you can email me at srinjay.verma@buzlymail.com or buzly@buzlymail.com, whichever one is easier. And that's a great way to reach out to us. We are hiring, so if you're interested and you are a software engineer, you're interested in UI and graphic design or marketing, please reach out to us. And if you want to bring Buzly to your school, reach out to us as well, because we're looking for different types of campus representatives to kind of be the beacon of Buzly at your school.
Fantastic. Srinjay, you are a talent. I am proud of you. And let's keep this rolling. For me, I think I want to continue you proving the naysayers wrong. And I want to be a part of that. So if I can help any of the Buzly team mentorship, guidance, questions, like I'm there for you. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share. It really helps us out a lot. We're trying to bring more successful entrepreneurs that will bring stories of their inspiration, which I hope will inspire you to find your dreams and to make them true. Looking forward to seeing you again on the next Twist of Fate.
Twist of Fate is hosted by Doug Younger. It's produced by John Lenvid and Matthew Brown at Ezo Creative. Moni Yu designs our graphics, and Enrique Pimentel manages our digital life. Our theme music is by Jamie Bathgate. Special thanks to all of our patrons. You can support the show by visiting patreon.com/twistoffate podcast. Thanks for listening.